right, welcome back in. Hope you all are having a happy Monday. Today, we are going to be hopping into my post free agency, pre NFL draft, way too early prediction series. And we're going to start with the AFC. The way this is going to go is I'm going to break down 1 through 4 each division. And then at the end, give you guys my official playoff standings. So without further ado, we got no time to waste. Let us hop in to the AFC East. Now, in the AFC East, I still have the Buffalo Bills as the 1 seed, the Patriots moving into the 2 seed, and yes, making the playoffs, the Dolphins as the 3 seed, and the Jets as the 4 seed. Let's start with Buffalo. I think Buffalo is a really easy option for everybody to kind of understand and predict to be the 1 seed. It's chalky, but it's correct because at the end of the day, the quarterback talent gap in this division is Josh Allen up here and everybody else down here, right? Drake May, Tua, and Justin Fields. Those guys aren't competing with Josh Allen. If you put all of those guys and mesh them into one quarterback, that might be Josh Allen, but it's not. Josh Allen is still that guy. He's the MVP of the league for a reason. He is that dude. And Sean McDermott is still a really, really solid coach. I think you could argue that him and Mike Vrabel could be neck and neck for the best coach in this division at this point in time. But with what McDermott has done the past half decade in Buffalo, I still give him the nod. So by far, they have the best quarterback talent in the division. I think they have the best head coach in the division. Their overall roster is the best in the division. The Buffalo Bills are going to win the AFC East again, barring an injury. The bet on that is literally just, will Buffalo stay healthy? If Buffalo stays healthy, it isn't even just Buffalo. Will Josh Allen stay healthy? If Josh Allen is out there on the field for 16 to 17 games this year for the Buffalo Bills, they will once again win the AFC East. I really like the weapons that they have as well on the offense. It's a young core of guys, and I don't think it gets talked about enough. James Cook, Khalil Shakur, Keon Coleman, Dalton Kincaid. This is a very young, inexpensive group of weapons that I think has a possibility to really have a breakout year one of these seasons. Obviously, Keon Coleman going into his sophomore year. Dalton Kincaid going into his 3rd year. We know tight ends take a little bit longer. James Cook did have that breakout last year where I believe he led the NFL in rushing touchdowns for a running back for a really long time, if not he finished the year there. And Khalil Shakur was a really solid slot option. I like this defense. They paid Christian Benford. You have Ed Oliver on that defensive line. I do think they should target an edge in the draft, and they have the ability to do so. It is a deep edge rusher class, and you saw how to beat KC, get pressure with 4. Buffalo will certainly look to target that. They brought in Joey Bosa. The Bills are an easy 1 seed in the AFC East. Yes, I do have the Patriots as the 2 seed, and I do have them making the jump all the way to playoff football. I don't want to overthink the room here. The Patriots will get a full season of Drake May and Mike Vrabel in at head coach. I'm not saying it's exactly Justin Herbert and Jim Harbaugh, but that is another good representation of what that can do, even in a jam-packed AFC. Are the Patriots going to be talked about how the Chargers were as a sleeper AFC championship team? I don't think so. But I think that the Patriots will be battling. They will be gritty. This will be a fighting team that fights their way into the playoffs at the end of the year. They're not going to win a playoff game, I don't think, but just getting there will be a massive achievement for this team. They had some nice free agent signings in Milton Williams, Carlton Davis, Stephon Diggs, and I get it. Was Diggs an overpay? Was Davis an overpay? Was Milton Williams an overpay? You could argue yes for all 3. The bottom line is the Patriots had money to spend. It was burning a hole in their pocket, and they had to get free agent talent to build a winning team. That defense gets better. The interior pressure of Milton Williams. There wasn't a team that got less sacks from their edge rushers than the Patriots last year, so that's a bit of a concern, but at the end of the day, more interior pressure could lead to higher win rate for their edge rusher talent. Carlton Davis, a really solid corner too. Stephon Diggs, is he a great wide receiver 1 in 2025? Probably not. But this team with the number 4 pick looks like they're going to get Travis Hunter at this point in time. And if not, they get Ted McMillan. So I think Diggs will be the 2 for this team when it's all said and done by the end of next year. And that's a great role for him. The Patriots, I get it. It's like, are we, jumping the shark a little too early here with putting the Patriots in the playoffs? But I'm just not trying to overthink it. A second year for a top 3 pick at quarterback, a new head coach who's proven to win, a defense that's loading up on talent, and a top 4 pick in the draft. that has all the makings of a team that's ready to take a jump. I certainly think they'll be number 2 in this division. In playoffs, I'm going to predict it, but I could see where some people think it's a bit of a stretch. Number 3 in this division, I got the Miami Dolphins. And listen, I got killed last year when I predicted the Dolphins to do bad. I was right. I'm going to predict the Dolphins to do bad again, and maybe I'll get killed again, or maybe everybody now sees it the way that I saw it. But simply put, I do not believe in Tua Tagovailoa or Mike McDaniel for that matter of fact. Now, when Tua is not playing, the team literally stands no chance. So not to say that Tua is bad, but I think he's mid. I think he is an average quarterback who gives you an average shot to win football games. And I also think Mike McDaniel started to trust Tua less last year. We saw in previous seasons, the Dolphins, what did they want to do? The deep shot, the average depth of target was going down the field. You know, they brought in Tyreek Hill, they brought in Jalen Waddle, they have these field stretchers. And then last year, Tua had the lowest average depth of target in the NFL. I'm looking at a lot of dump offs to Devon A-Chain, some short passes to Jonnu Smith, and relying on Yak from these weapons, which is fine, but it's also very predictable and limits your big play ability. I think the Dolphins went too far away from the big play offensively, and that's on Mike McDaniel. Maybe he doesn't trust Tua. Maybe I don't think he's that good. And one of their big play weapons, Tyreek Hill, once again on Twitter, seems to be asking for a trade, asking out of this team. And this is a team who lost a lot of talent, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Javon Holland, gone. Deshaun Hand, gone. Anthony Walker Jr., gone. Free agents include the ageless Calais Campbell, Tyus Bowser, Jordan Poyer, Kendall Fuller, and Calais Campbell even got moved to the Ravens last year. So, a guy that left the team that was making an impact early on. This team is losing defensive talent, and the defense was the strength of this team last year. Can I trust Tua to stay healthy? I have some questions about that and some questions about the offensive line. Teron Armstead, great when he plays. You can't bank on him. They have a lot of holes on this defense, and I don't think they could fix it all in the draft. They didn't have an active free agency. In Miami, the stock arrow is still pointing down for me. Next, in fourth, the New York Jets. Will the Jets be bad in 2025? Yeah, I think we could all agree on that. But the Jets need a scrub. This is not the end of the world. You have to get rid of that bad culture, the Aaron Rodgers, Joe Douglas built roster, the overall just Jet stink on this team. You have to get rid of it. Do I like the Justin Fields lottery ticket? Yeah, I think it's fine. You have to have a starting quarterback. At least this one brings a little bit of excitement. Are you banking on him to win? No, you brought in Aaron Glenn in this new regime to build a brand new house. You treat this like a complete teardown of a property. This year is about building the foundation. Are you going to call up your friends and say, come look at this foundation I built? No. But do you need that to one day show them the house? Absolutely. That is what the Jets are doing this year. They are building the foundation. They have young pieces in Garrett Wilson, in Breece Hall, in Sauce Gardner that are really easy to believe in on both sides of the ball. They drafted Olu Fashanu last year. Like, there is talent to be had. I don't think they're ready to succeed at a high level, but there's pieces there. Bring in a couple more foundational pieces. In 2 to 3 years, I do think we could look at the Jets as a team. They're a quarterback away. And obviously there's a lot of teams that are a quarterback away, and you continue to be a quarterback away, but the Jets, the reset button was needed to be pressed. We're going to have a bad season here for the Jets, but it's a necessary one. Next, we move into the AFC North, which for me was probably the easiest division in the AFC to pinpoint the exact order that I wanted to go with. We're starting with the 1 seed, the Baltimore Ravens, 2, the Cincinnati Bengals, 3, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and 4, the Cleveland Browns, with the Ravens and Bengals both making the playoffs. At this point, the AFC North just runs through Baltimore. There was a little while there where we thought it was going to be a back and forth between Baltimore and Cincinnati, but the Ravens have just shown to be the much better run organization at this point. Lamar Jackson, a top 3 player in the sport, in my opinion, the second best quarterback to only Patrick Mahomes overall. If I was starting a franchise in a team, yes, I would take him over Josh Allen. The defense under Harbaugh has just always been good for the last 2 decades, my entire lifetime. The Ravens just have at least a good defense. Even last year's defense that started off slow turned out to be a really good unit. King Derrick Henry could have been an offensive player of the year candidate if Saquon Barkley didn't have one of the best running back seasons of all time, and Jamar Chase didn't win a triple crown. They'll once again, because of Lamar, because of Derrick Henry, have a, the best rushing attack in all of offense and all of football. And I've even seen mock drafts with this team getting a Mecca Egbuka at this point. So the Ravens, they feel like a real lock to me to be the winners of the AFC North and certainly in the playoffs. Even if Lamar got hurt, I think the team is well coached enough to probably still sneak in, to be honest. Number 2, the Cincinnati Bengals. I have them getting back to the playoffs. They obviously have a lot of work to do on the defense, but signs point to them getting a deal done with Trey Hendrickson, who in back-to-back years has had 17.5 sacks for this team. They almost need to keep him. And aside from drafting one interior offensive lineman in this draft, because you move on from Alex Kappa, which could just literally be addition by subtraction in its own right, you have to bring in a guy to play guard for them. But aside from that, they might spend every single draft pick on the defensive side of the football, and they absolutely should. Burrow, Chase, Higgins, Chase Brown, Mike Gesicki, like that is a good enough offensive unit to win football games. And it was a playoff caliber team last year. They went toe to toe with Denver and won in that overtime game. T. Higgins absolutely balled out there. They just have to fix the slow start BS. They lost week 1 to a Jacoby Brissett led Patriots team. They were bad for the first month of the year. They have to fix that. They've been that way the last 3 years. The last 2, they've missed the playoffs because of it. But if they could just get out the gates going fine, they will be a playoff team. Do I think they're a Super Bowl threat? Not currently, but a playoff team, I do believe so. 3, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't know who their quarterback is, and it's a really hard team to predict their season when you don't know who their quarterback is, but can Mike Tomlin get Mason Rudolph to 9 wins? Probably. Listen. Without predicting injuries, it's almost impossible to predict the Steelers to get into the playoffs. Somehow, some year, they always do, but I'm not going to go out here and be like, well, this guy's going to get hurt and this guy's going to get hurt, and that's how the Steelers are going to get in, even though that's likely how the Steelers would get in as currently constructed. Do I think they're going to bring in Aaron Rodgers or draft Jackson Dart? I do, but right now, I just can't pick them to get in. The offense should be more dynamic with DK Metcalf added and Najee Harris out the door, and the defense is always solid. But for what it's worth, Pittsburgh doesn't have a freaking quarterback. I can't pick them to get into the playoffs at this point in time. And the Browns and the Steelers are the Spider-Man meme right now of great roster, no quarterback, because that is where they are at right now. Who is playing quarterback for the Cleveland Browns? Deshaun Watson re-tore his Achilles. I don't even think he could play to open up the year. You traded for Kenny Pickett? Is Kenny Pickett going to be the Browns starting quarterback? I don't know, because all signs point to them taking Abdul Carter number 2, and I don't blame them. The guy is an absolute blue chip prospect, and him and Myles Garrett as an edge rusher, like watch out Lamar Jackson, watch out Joe Burrow, watch out Mason Rudolph, maybe? I don't know. That is terrifying. The defense will be great, and Jerry Jeudy had a really solid breakout year. They don't have enough dynamic players on the offense to sustain Kenny Pickett being their quarterback and make the playoffs. Again, feels like a foundational year for the Browns. I don't hate it, but they're not winning a lot of games. Up next, we got the AFC South, and I still have the Houston Texans winning this division and making the playoffs. Then I have the Jaguars, Titans, and Colts, but I have all 3 of them missing. Listen, at this point in time, the Texans are just far and away the best team in this division. Despite my confusions with their offensive line, it's really this simple. They have the best quarterback in the division in CJ Stroud, who I think got a little bit overhated last year in terms of his sophomore slump. The guy had a higher pressure rate on him than Patrick Mahomes did in the Super Bowl for an entire season, with Stephon Diggs tearing his ACL, Tank Dell not being fully healthy, Nico Collins missing about a third of the season. The guy never had all of his weapons and never had time to throw the football. The fact that they made the playoffs and won a playoff game, I think should be celebrated for CJ Stroud, not held against him somehow. D'Amico Ryans is still the best head coach in this division. The swarm mentality, it's real. He gets the best out of his guys. He builds a culture, and it is built on hustle and attitude. And you have to love that from a defensive head coach, proving that it can work still in the NFL. And speaking of that defense, I don't think it's just the best in this division. I think it might be the best in the entire NFL. A pass rusher duo of Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr., don't know if there's a better one. Now that Abdul Carter, Myles Garrett one in Cleveland that we're looking like it's going to happen, might be some competition. But as of last season, I'll give the edge to Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. You know, you got Petrie coming back. Derek Stingley's the best ball hawk corner in football. Kamari Lassiter had a really solid rookie year. You bring in CJ Gardner-Johnson. The defense in Houston is absolutely freaking loaded. Even with a college offensive line, they still might be able to win this division. That's how good they are and how far and above the rest of these teams that they are. But in second, I do have the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I do believe if everything goes right for Jacksonville, they could be back in the playoffs in this upcoming season. Liam Cohen comes in, a good offensive mind. Can he get the best out of a Trevor Lawrence, Brian Thomas, Travis Etienne, Parker Washington-led offense? They may be drafting a skill position guy. At pick 5, could this team bring in a Tyler Warren? Absolutely. They could even bring in an Ashton Jeanty. And nobody's talking about this really, but I saw it on the NFL Stock Exchange with Brett Coleman and EJ and those guys, and they brought it up, and I thought it was a really good point. Travis Etienne's going into the last year of his deal. Could you draft a Jeanty and then move Etienne? Liam Cohen knows how important Bucky Irving was to the Buccaneers' success last year. Could he try and recapture that with Jeanty? Just some food for thought. I do think the Jaguars have the second best offensive potential in this division, of course, behind Houston, and that's why I put them here. A lot of question marks on the defense and even the offensive line, and even Trevor Lawrence. How good is he? It's a real let's figure out where we're at year for the Jags, and if all goes right, I think they could sneak into the playoffs, but I don't think they win this division. Next, I got the Titans. If Cam Ward comes in and hits immediately, the Tennessee Titans will finish second in this division and will really compete for a playoff spot. If he hits immediately. They had a very underrated defense last year. L'Jarius Sneed, T'Vondre Sweat, Jeffrey Simmons, a bunch of ballers. The offensive skill pieces, Calvin Ridley, Chigankonku, Tony Pollard, it's fine. Nothing to brag about, but it's fine. They need more. Cam Ward is the pick at number 1, for sure. I have some questions about what the offensive line is. They spent money on Dan Moore, which is cool. You like to see him spending money. Is he worth the money? I don't know. And is Callahan the guy? He had Will Levis as his quarterback for his first year, so I'm not out on the guy, but I'm not in on him either. And then last, I have the Colts. This is a dumpster fire of a quarterback situation in terms of Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson, because if Anthony Richardson cannot beat out Daniel Jones for your starting quarterback job, there is a major problem. But even if he does, I still have massive question marks on his IQ, and after the tap out, his heart. And I don't know if Shane Steichen's the guy to get it under control. The whole, people are showing up late to practice so nonchalantly makes me think, oh, that's an offensive coordinator, not a head coach. The defense, not great either. The wide receiver room, it's okay. I like Josh Downs. I like Michael Pittman. They're fine. Jonathan Taylor, though, is the only elite player at his position on this team. The Colts, not in for a good season, in my opinion. And then lastly, the AFC West, and I noticed my neighbor started using the leaf blower, so I hope you don't hear it. Anyways, the Chiefs will win this division once again. They'll be in the playoffs, as will the Los Angeles Chargers. The Broncos I have missing the playoffs. We'll talk about it, Broncos fans. I get it, you're mad at me. And the Raiders finishing 4th in this division. Let us start with the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's simple. The Chiefs are still the Chiefs. They just went to 3 straight Super Bowls. I still think that they are the leaders to win this AFC West. You'd be a sucker to pick them to miss the playoffs. However, I think there's a little bit of hope for the AFC, that it's not just the Chiefs conference and everybody else is playing for second anymore. I do think we're at a point where it's not guaranteed that the Chiefs win 13 plus games. And I think we're at a point where if the Chargers have a really good draft, it's not a guarantee that the Chiefs win this division anymore. There is some real question marks on the left side of this offensive line without Tooney or Humphreys at this point for the Kansas City Chiefs. They brought in the backup tackle for the 49ers, who anytime that you bring up a backup tackle, you're like, that's not the guy, but he's sitting behind Trent Williams, so maybe he's the guy because they paid him like he could be the guy. But I have some question marks there. Isaiah Pacheco, the running game, did not look like Isaiah Pacheco last year. Was coming back from an injury, so maybe that has something to do with it. But maybe he capped off. Travis Kelce, not the guy no more. Can't be the number 1 option anymore. He could still be really solid and have some big games. Can't be the number 1. Rashee Rice coming off that ACL injury and dealing with the legal trouble still. Is he the guy? There are some question marks on this Chiefs offense. As well, there's some question marks on the defense. Who is their cornerback to? Can they play consistently? Is the line going to stay as strong as it is? It's the Chiefs. I don't want to overthink the room. They're still going to be good. They're still probably going to win this division, but I think they are not invincible anymore. I think we saw that when they got just really outplayed by Philly, the Chargers. So I was flirting with the idea transparently of the Chargers being the team that I have the Broncos being and missing the playoffs. It was between those two. I think only two teams out of this AFC West, because of how good it is, make the playoffs, because I think they're going to really drag each other down. For me, it was a hard thought, and then it became a really easy thought of, well, am I going to have my faith in Herbert and Harbaugh or Nix and Peyton? And I sat back and I said, well, Herbert and Harbaugh it is. I think the Chargers will be making the playoffs. And sometimes you just have to not outthink the room, right? In year 2, will Justin Herbert and Jim Harbaugh fail? Probably not. That means that this team is probably headed back to the playoffs. And I have some question marks about the wide receiver room. I think they really need to address it in the draft. The bright side, I think they can. I think when they get up at pick 22, Ted McMillan, Luther Burden, Matthew Golden, one of those three guys will be there, and then you have an outside playmaker. Ladd McConkey is an absolute stud. 2 great offensive tackles in Slater and Alt. Justin Herbert's a beast, and that defense, Minter is forming it. I worry a little bit about the interior offensive line and the interior defensive line. They brought in Becton. I like the move. They lost Poona Ford. I do think that matters a ton. Do I trust this regime of Harbaugh, Minter, in that front office to build the talent? I do. And again, you have the hardest part. You have the quarterback and the head coach. And the quarterback is top 10 in the sport, meaning he's talented enough to figure it out without the best of the best. You have to get another outside wide receiver, though. Quentin Johnson and Mike Williams cannot be your outside wide receivers. They just cannot be. Now, Broncos fans, let's have a conversation here, because I know you're probably mad at me. You probably already commented, what the hell, man? We made the playoffs last year. We outperformed expectations. The defense got better. That is true. They are my first team in. If there is an injury anywhere, I think they get in. But at the end of the day, this division just got too good. The Chiefs, really good. The Chargers, really good, have a better coach and a better quarterback. The Raiders are competitive. This division's going to eat each other alive. And I have some real concerns on, does Bo Nix get better, or is he what he was? Coming out of the draft, and I get it. It was unfair, but walk with me for a second. I gave him Mac Jones comparisons because I said, I think he's the most pro-ready guy, but I also think he has the lowest ceiling. Bo Nix was pro-ready, but I question, is there a second gear? I know Jaden Daniels is an MVP level player. I know Caleb Williams has MVP potential. I don't know Bo Nix has that. And I worry that Bo Nix is just the guy that we saw last year, and that's it. And teams will start to figure that out. And their offense, is it going to be dynamic enough to compete with Kansas City and Mahomes, compete with the Chargers, compete with these good defenses? I don't know. I do have question marks about the Broncos. I hope they prove me wrong, but they're my first team out. And then the Raiders. The Raiders made moves this offseason to be competitive, but I just can't buy them jumping any team in this division, truthfully. Geno Smith, I'm not in love with him like NFL TikTok is. Jacoby Myers is the wide receiver 1. You're in a division with Patrick Mahomes, the best player in the sport, Justin Herbert, a top 10 quarterback, and the Broncos, whose defense got better and they showed us they could win last year. I don't see the Raiders doing any better than 4th. And then when it comes to playoff seeding, I have the Buffalo Bills as the 1 seed. I just think it's their year to get it, truthfully. And the AFC East is a little bit easier than the West and the North. I have the Baltimore Ravens finishing as the 2 seed, the Kansas City Chiefs as my 3 seed, the Texans as my 4 seed, the Chargers as my 5 seed, the Bengals as my 6 seed, and the New England Patriots finishing as my 7 seed. Guys, these are just my way too early predictions. I'm sure after the draft and training camp and reports coming out and yada yada, things will change. But these are my way too early predictions. Let me know what I got way too wrong or way too right in the comment section down below. We'll be doing the NFC either Wednesday or Friday of this upcoming week. I appreciate you guys' support. I'll catch you next time. Peace.